kind of feel like I'm just slumming for ideas lately, but that just might be me, or maybe I just don't have a lot of interesting things to talk about right now, or I'm just not being introspective enough. And despite the topic of the podcast, usually I feel like being introspective at all is too introspective. But couple things kicking around today. One of the things, I was just on the phone talking to somebody. They wanted to reach out and chat. I haven't talked to them in a long time, and had a couple questions about various things related to CrossFit and running a small business, running an affiliate. And I'm sitting here at my desk listening and on the phone, got the phone down on the desk, speakerphone, and got my computer in front of me and mega monitor and all that stuff set up. And I just realized, and it was nice to talk to this person. I mean, I can tell that they were really into it, and it was good to hear from them and hear what they've been up to, and truly enjoyed it. And I'm just so amazed how how easy it is to get distracted. And I have my computer in front of me, so you got the line. You can go on the line and find whatever you want on the internet, and take some notes here and chip on this thing there, and I don't know. You can do whatever. Open, close the same app 15 times just because you're sitting there, and I think and I was thinking about this with some other things that I was telling you how a couple days ago I was able to sit down and have coffee with somebody, get to know them, chat with them, and it was really nice. It was, for the most part, distraction free, and any distractions that occurred, one of the baristas, I guess, working at the espresso machine, dropped something, made a loud clang, and that was a distraction. And the person I was talking to, he and I looked over and a little startled, and then looked back at each other and laughed. So it's like we got to participate in the distraction together, which I think that's sort of the essence of a conversation, right? It's an interplay between two people that are both reacting to each other and perhaps to the world around them, which it's really fun and engaging. But I just thought it was so interesting today how hard it was for me and I was truly enjoying talking to this person. And it was really neat hearing about what they've been up to, and they're recently retired, and it was just interesting to me how hard it is to stay focused sometimes. And that's just, again, I think that's really just a learned habit, a learned behavior of I am going to do two things at once because I can, and I have been doing that in the past. Or I'm just generally more inclined to do this thing and distract myself on the internet than I am to focus on a single thing. So I started off taking notes on my computer, and then I switched to handwritten notes because I don't know, I feel like it tuned you in a little bit better. I always felt like that. I was always really impressed when I was in law school, and I wasn't a very good law school student by any measure, very bad one, but I enjoyed it. And I was always very impressed by the people who would just take really well-defined and clear notes on their computer. I just couldn't do it. I was so much more productive if I shut my computer and wrote everything down. I don't know if that means I'm not disciplined but I just thought it was interesting. And I think I had mentioned this here, I looked, you're looking at the screen time on your phone, getting distracted, blah, blah, blah. But then instead of screen time was not that impressive. Because it's you can spend a weekend binge watching a show on Netflix, or maybe you are doing something like reading on your screen, on your phone, or maybe you're reading a book. So the screen time, obviously impactful, interesting, but what I thought was really devastating is it tells you how many times you've picked your phone up and fucking looked at it in a day. And that one, just about the weight of that just about broke my back. Because I know there are times, I was joking about this recently, and this is actually a really, really horrible thing. I had a friend recently, and I have a friend recently, and he had someone in his family passed away. And I was just kind of flipping through Instagram and just liking things, and I saw this post, and I just totally missed the fact that this had happened. Just kind of double tapped the post, just brain rot scrolling. And then Cassandra had mentioned something to me about it, and I went back and I was like, Jesus, I got to read the fucking captions. I'm so out to lunch. I'm just in drool mode, just scrolling, clicking things. Ugh, nice picture. No context, no captions. Just really it's like, have you ever sat down and you're just eating one of your favorite junk foods, and you're just reaching into the bag and just shoveling it into your mouth. Everything's just a freaking blur. And then all of a sudden you reach to the bottom of the bag and there's nothing there, and you're just still putting your hand to your mouth and nothing's going in. That's never happened to anybody? It's not happened to you guys? Okay, maybe it's just me. But I think you get what I'm saying. You just kind of get into this, man, I hate that mode. It's like the same but opposite of a flow state. You know, if you're really just, you know, maybe you're being really, you know, you're writing and the ideas are flowing, or maybe you're even working out and you're just, you know, you're conscious of a single thing at a time. You're just moving forward. You're not distracted by the metabolic stress of the workout or the next rep you got to do. Just every, you know, it's just a rep in every breath, and you're just so focused on that one thing. That's like a, you know, like a flow state. Maybe like when you're skiing, like I can see it happen, or something like that. Riding a bike and everything's just clicking, and you're simultaneously, you know, you're focused on nothing but that one task, but you're hyper aware of that one task. Whereas, like, you know, the brain rot scrolling is you're not even really, you're doing the task, but you're not even focused on that task. You're just, you know, participating in this thing like a robot. I don't know. It's just really interesting. And I think that, you know, the phone pickups thing, I've talked about it before, was kind of shocking. So I've been just trying a little bit harder lately when I snag my phone. What am I doing with this thing? Why is it in my hand, and why am I looking at it? To be a little bit more purposeful with that. And similarly, when I want to let myself get distracted, what is the thing that I'm meant to be focusing on right now? And it's really fun. It takes a little extra exercise, a little effort. And you know what? It's also really rewarding. You know, like I said, I had that conversation with that fellow, dropped into our gym. We had coffee. We chatted for a long time. You know, very awesome, involved conversation. And I'm not saying I felt fatigued. I was actually really energized by it, but I felt like it took effort. You know, the brain muscles, the attention muscles were squeezed. And that definitely felt more rewarding. You know, I think there are so many cases where you pay attention. This is not what I want. Had no idea I was going to talk about this today. But I think there are so many cases where when you pay a little bit of extra attention, the thing you've attended to feels more rewarding, more enriching, more nourishing. You know, like I said, like the Instagram scrolling, because it's just so ubiquitous, a great thing to prop this up against. Because when you're just sitting there scrolling, I feel like nothing happened. And it just feels, it's like the empty calories of social intake. And I definitely think there's a time and the place for it. Like, I love coming across a good meme or a funny reel, but it's just like eating candy. Like, you gotta limit it. And it's like you have the first 2 Jolly Ranchers and they fucking rock your world. And after your 15th Jolly Rancher, your teeth feel gritty and everything tastes the same. You have like taste fatigue. You just want to go lay down and throw up. Maybe that's a little bit drastic, but what am I getting at here? What I'm getting at is, you know, in interacting with other people, I think there's this very nice, it just feels more rewarding when you don't let yourself get distracted. That's kind of the first thing. The second thing is, I just always feel like you have something to learn from a conversation where you pay attention to. You know, it's like I sometimes see people get into the yep conversations where they're just like, I'm just going to take in this data as fast as I can and maybe record it, maybe toss it into the bin. But, you know, when you make some solid eye contact and you follow along and you read off their body language, and I know I've talked about this before, but you get something more out of that conversation, especially when it's somebody that I haven't talked to in a long time. And when you really pay attention and listen to them, it allowed me to do things like this person I've talked to maybe twice in the last couple of years, reflect parts of their life and prop it up against mine and think about maybe some lessons that these brief lessons that they're sharing in this short 15, 20-minute conversation or experiences they're sharing. You know, how do they relate to me? What does that actually mean? What is it? How do you learn from an experiences of somebody else and what they've been up to, and what can I extract from that, and think about that for a little while rather than just how quickly can I just intake this information and just do nothing with it. The entire act is just the intake, you know, the importance of the act is just shoving the Doritos into your face and chewing them and swallowing them as fast as possible. You know, you got to mull it around a little bit. So that was kind of something I thought was really interesting, and I just noticed about myself in terms of paying attention. And I think it happens to so many of us. But I think about all of the most wonderful interactions I've had with people, and they've been interactions where it was clear to me that they were more interested in the interaction we were having than everything else going on. And some people do that exceptionally well. Some people definitely do that better than others. There was, one of the other exercises I was thinking about, we've talked about the accountability exercise. We've talked about the gratitude exercise. And it's similar to the gratitude exercise. I spent some time writing some thank you cards for a couple people and a handful of people. And one of the reasons I wanted to do this was personally for me. We had I wrote out some thank you cards to the folks who I was on a team with for this year's CrossFit Open, our intramural open in the gym. And one of the reasons I really want to do the exercise is sort of, you ask a lot from them throughout it. They're like logging scores, and they're dressing up, and they're signing up to judge people, and they're doing the workouts, and they're cheering people on, and they're posting on social media to support the event in the gym. And, you're kind of peppering them with, hey, can you do this? Hey, can you do this? Did you do this? Like you are asking, a lot from them, or at least more from them than normal. Maybe it's not a lot. Some people might feel like it's a lot. That's not what I'm really here to judge. But I felt thankful for it. I was really appreciative of it. And again, I think it's an important exercise. So I sat down with the goal of just thinking about, all right, what is one specific thing, the people on the team did, or I was on a team with, what did they do that I was actually thankful for? What is something, specific action that I noticed that I thought they did well, or I appreciated, or felt like we couldn't have achieved without. And what was really cool about this, because you could just sit there and be like, oh, I'm so glad we were all on a team. Awesome. High five, chest bump, move on. And there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes the speed of life kind of requires these just quick high five chest bumps. But what I really liked about this exercise of sitting down and trying to find something that I felt like each person gave that was meaningful or noticed by me, again, it was this very enriching experience because I had to walk back through the memory of the 3 weeks of the Open. I had to think about how I perceived, each person. I had to think back on conversations, interactions I had. And it made this experience that overall I really enjoyed. I think it was one of the most fun years I've had participating in the Open. It was definitely one of the most exciting Open events we've had at CrossFit Mafia. And it was just made even stronger. It was more, I got to relive it. It was more enriching by going through that process. And I've gone back and forth on like the essence of the utility for me of journaling. And this in a way was like journaling, writing down different thank yous. So I think one exercise that would be cool, and I don't know what the frequency is or how it goes, but we talked about the gratitude, something you're grateful for. But I also thought it'd be a neat exercise to write down. I don't know what the frequency is, but basically write down, and you could deliver it to them or not, but write down one specific action that you did or didn't thank somebody for and why you wanted to thank them for it. Because there's something just, special about that. And I think you learn a lot about yourself when you articulate what it is you want to thank other people for, what it is you felt like that person needed a thank you for. You learn a lot about yourself, what you care about, what you pay attention to, things that you don't pay attention to, what you value from other people. And maybe you learn also, one of the big things you learn is, actions you want to emulate yourself. Maybe there's some new characteristic, skill trait that you've been working on that you want to increase or improve. And by thinking a little more deeply about the interactions you've had with other people, that's a great way to do that. You don't always, self-help books are what they are. They're self-help books. But you have, oodles, for lack of a more technical term. You have oodles of self-help everywhere you look around you from the people you interact with. Anyway, that went a little off topic. What I really wanted to talk about was sort of the concept of blame. And when people use the excuse of, have you heard this one where people say things like, if anyone else did this, everyone would be so upset. Or if anyone else did this, no one would be upset, but just because I did it, you're upset. And I want to talk about that. It's not great. It's a horrible, shitty outlook on the world and way to problem solve and problem handle. But more tomorrow.